Hello again. It seems that I got cut off last time because apparently you only get 10 minutes of video and I'm still trying to learn how to use the webcam. I believe I was talking in my discussion of the new categories they ought to implement at the Oscars, specifically the one for, I guess you could call it either animation design or graphic design. I believe I have already covered most of the points on that one. I don't believe I actually talked about the nominees that I would pick for, say, the Soundtrack Award. I mentioned Up in the Air and Inglourious Basterds as two very solid contenders for that category. I had totally forgotten until a few minutes ago about I Love You Man as a very good contender, and Education, and Jennifer's Body. I guess, what is that? Was that 5? Pretty close. Probably be a good, as any, good 5 choices. Of course, movies that were deemed ineligible for whatever reason or another by the Academy, like Where the Wild Things Are and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Coraline. Well, Coraline was eligible in every category, but it's one where the overall soundtrack is a little stronger than the parts. So anyway, those are the lead contenders for that award that I'm hoping they'll come up with. As far as the contenders for the bit player or cameo, and I went through this at great length and none of it was recorded, so hope you'll forgive me for skimping a little bit on some of it, but I definitely want to focus on a few of the good ones and point out that if you haven't seen the movies, you may want to maybe cut it off at this point, just because one of the lovely bits of cameos is seeing them for the first time and perhaps being shocked that this individual would do this movie is sometimes worth the price of admission in some cases. But of the films that came out this year for the Bit Player Cameo Award, there's one very clear winner for the award, best male bit player cameo, and that one is J.K. Simmons in Up in the Air as a recently fired, well, a worker who's being fired, first by Anna Kendrick, who just fails, totally fails. I think it was her first attempt. It might have been the second attempt they showed in the movie. I can't remember. But George Clooney is the veteran corporate downsizer who has her tacked on to him as, I guess, his protege, if you will. And she fails horribly trying to fire J.K. Simmons. So Clooney steps up to bat and insults Simmons. And Simmons' righteous indignation is great. And the way the whole scene plays out is top-notch acting from all three. And I will be talking about Kendrick and Clooney later, but Simmons deserves some kind of award for being one of the best bit players in the business. He was criminally underused in I Love You Man, and I will give that one a shout out, even though it's barely even a role. But in Up in the Air, he really got to shine for about 3 minutes, and so he should get an award. Probably the most talked about cameo of the year is the surprise celebrity appearance in Zombieland, and remarkably is still a surprise for a lot of people. And that's why I say, if you don't want to know who it is, stop watching. But if you have seen the movie or you don't mind a spoiler, although I will say this, I didn't want to see Zombieland either. It was by accident that I saw it, and I loved it. So if you think you won't like it, you might. But near the end of the movie, or not quite the end, but toward the end, same thing. Anyway, the group is out in California. You got four main characters in the movie: Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, Emma Stone, the four survivors of the zombie Holocaust. And in Hollywood, Harrelson's like, I know where we need to go. And so they visit a mansion with a great big BM on the front gate and go in, and it's Bill Murray's mansion. And the team splits up, and before long, Stone and Harrelson come face to face with a zombie, Bill Murray. And then from there, Murray playing himself is oddly enough one of the best roles he's ever had or will ever have. And to a lot of people, that was the best cameo of the year. I give Simmons props for better performance, but Murray's was definitely one of the best surprises of the year. So those two alone justify the creation of the award. But I have also the second film role I've ever seen for Eminem, played again himself in Funny People, advising his friend George Simmons, played by Adam Sandler, to, hey man, it's too bad you didn't die, because now you got the whole pathos thing going for you, and no one wants that in a comic. And he sells that very well, but what really makes that cameo is the appearance by Ray Romano. And Ira, played by Seth Rogen, is talking to Romano, and Romano is apparently a big Eminem fan, according to the movie, at least. The way Eminem handles that, hilarious. I love it. And he gets props for that. So he definitely is on the list. There's some debate, I'm sure, whether Leonard Nimoy's performance in Star Trek was exactly a cameo or more of a supporting role, as playing the Spock from the future, aka Spock Prime. Nimoy, known to the world as Spock for the past 40 years, does a remarkably good job playing Spock. But he actually gives one of the best actual performances in the whole movie. And it's not a big role, so I'm going to put it in this category. Well worth seeing. Zachary Quinto does a fine job as the new Spock, but Nimoy does a great job as the original. And then to round out my top 5, another one of the surprise ones. One of the movies this year that, like Funny People, was loaded with cameos was Ricky Gervais's The Invention of Lying. There's a great scene where Gervais and Louis C.K. are driving down the highway. C.K. is driving despite having just taken about 6 shots, and maybe then some, weaving all over the place. So a cop pulls him, naturally. Cop pulls up, and you look at him and you're like, huh. There's like a vague familiarity. Then he starts talking, and you're like, no way. And then by the end of the scene, you're like, no way. And then you watch the credits. And yes, that was Edward Norton. Edward friggin' Norton, the guy who's so serious in most movies that you get the feeling that if you met him, he'd be the last person you'd want to cross. And yet, he's a really good comedic actor. He just never does it. This is one of his best comedic roles ever. And it's like 2 minutes long. So, he definitely gets a shout out for that. And it looks like I'm already closing on the 10-minute mark, so I'll go ahead and real quick wrap up the other actors. James Taylor, also playing himself in Funny People. Absolutely hilarious. Philip Seymour Hoffman also has a surprise performance in The Invention of Lying. Not his strongest role, but he is, mostly because he doesn't really do much, but he's solid, he's there, and he is also an Oscar-winning serious actor, although he has done more comedy than Norton has, but it's pleasant to see him there. Jeff Daniels, Away We Go, Ray Fine in The Hurt Locker, Mark Friedrich, Paranormal Activity, Jason Bateman, The Invention of Lying, Guy Pearce in The Hurt Locker. All excellent performances. Some of their best in most cases. Mark Ruffalo in Where the Wild Things Are is just about the strongest thing he's had. and I will break here.